So who am I? My name is Joe Morgan. I'm a CFA and a CFP. I work with tech employees who have a lot of company stock. And I've been doing this on the personal side now for nearly 6 years. And for about 25 years before that, I was managing institutional money. Most recently, I was chief investment officer at Silicon Valley Bank. So I was managing the cash of a lot of tech companies. And now I'm working with the employees, of course. I have a picture of Sea Ranch here because that's where I am. My family and I decided to take the month of September and get out of town. So we're up here in lovely Sea Ranch. This is what it looked like when we got here. Today it's smoky and red and foggy, just as I understand Danville is. So it didn't quite escape everything. Before we get into the heart of this, I have to say, this is not financial advice. Financial advice is specific to you and your situation. And I can only give financial advice to clients of mine where we've gone through the process of getting to know each other and understanding what we want to accomplish in life. So what we're talking about today is simply some money moves that we might want to make. They may or may not be appropriate for you. We don't know. And really for what today is about more is methodology of looking at your personal cash flow. I have several other webinars that I've recorded. You can see them there. What is financial planning, how to manage RSUs, and building a long-term portfolio. And so this is something that I started a few months ago, and it's just continuing. So I appreciate the support, and I appreciate the folks that are here today. Thank you so much. So what is financial planning? So this is how I look at financial planning overall. There are 4 areas: protect what you have, know where it goes, make it grow, and retain independence and dignity. And today we're talking about the know where it goes, meaning know where your money goes, and retaining independence and dignity, which basically means we're not going to live off of our kids in our old age, right? So that's where we're focused today. And throughout all of this, we want to use intentional and purposeful effort to get what we want. This is basically what the process looks like when you work with me. And I just wanted to show this real quick to show the areas that we're highlighting, what we're hitting on today. So we're hitting on a lot of things because cash flow is really what it's all about. If you have cash flow, positive cash flow, even if you have negative cash flow that's supportive of your lifestyle and will not run out before your time runs out, then we're on the road to success. And so that's why you see cash flow. That's why you see this touching every, kind of every part of the process: the spending history, the 5-year cash flows, lifetime cash flows, what if scenarios. It's all about cash flow when you're thinking about financial planning. So what defines success in financial planning? Well, for me and many of the folks I know, it's dying with $1 in our bank account. That's really it. Now, some people may have designs on leaving $1 million to their kids or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's where we end up. And of course, we don't know when we're going to die. So that makes it really hard to plan for. But we do know our cash flow, and we do know how to manage our cash flow. Now, at the end of the day, we don't want to actually die with just $1, right? Because that's cutting it a little bit too close. But that is kind of how we look at it. Now, there's 3 inputs into this, how we do this. Really just 3. What you have, what you make, and what you spend. And that's really it. Now, if you think about your own situation, I bet you know what you have. I bet you know what you make. And some of you may know what you spend, but I bet most of you don't pay a lot of attention to that. And I think that's okay. You don't have to pay a lot of attention to it, but you do have to know the price tag of your current lifestyle in order to understand whether or not your financial situation is going to allow you to meet that price tag throughout your life. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So this is the three illustrations that I use with clients. They don't look like this. I had to fit them all on one page, so they look kind of crunched and not very practical. But I want you to understand how they work together. So on the far left, we have a spending plan. So we know, like I said, the price tag of our current lifestyle. We know how much we spend on groceries, how much we spend on dining out. And frankly, I don't really care what my clients spend on groceries and dining out and all those things. What I care is what the total number is, right? Because if we're going to maintain this lifestyle, I need to know how much it costs going forward. Then moving to the middle, we have a 5-year cash flow projection. That's where we're really projecting in some detail what our income and our outflow will be over the next 5 years. And that gives us a savings target plus an emergency target. So if those numbers are negative, like for example, if we're retiring in a couple of years, or if we're taking a sabbatical in a couple of years, and we know we're going to have a couple of years that are negative, well, that money needs to go into savings. And we talk about that a little bit in the building a long-term portfolio webinar as well. Once we have the 5-year cash flow set up, we can go and build a lifetime cash flow projection. So we're going to go all the way out to our age 100, because like I said, we don't know when our retirement is going to end. So we have to make a guess. I'm usually guess 100, but if there's a reason to guess to use a different number, we can do that too. This is a little bit less detailed, but no less important, right? Because we want to know that we're going to end with at least $1 in our bank account. Now, today on this webinar, we're going to focus on the first 2 items and not the third. That third item, the lifetime cash flow, that is, we completely focused on that in the What is Financial Planning webinar. And I can certainly share a link to register for that if you're interested. I'm sorry, to watch the replay. It was a few months ago. Anyways, okay, so we got the spending plan is right now today. The 5-year cash flow is in the near term, and then we have the lifetime cash flow, inflows and outflows that make us feel comfortable that we're getting where we want to be. Okay, so actually, before we do that, let's just go to, I want to share with you some of the illustrations, again, the things that I use with clients. And I'll have templates of these spreadsheets for you guys. They're not going to have any data filled in, of course. But I have templates in case you want to play around with them. So this is what I use with clients, and I call it a spending plan. And these are made up numbers, so you can see they're only through May. So don't really represent any real individual, but they are realistic in the sense that you can see how expenses change month to month. So what we have here is we have categories on the left, right? And then we have months across the top. Over on the right, total. Then we annualize the total, right? So because we think in terms of years, 12-month periods. And then we have the actual plan part. So this is a little bit, this takes a little work to get to. So what I like to do is look at a full 12 months history, and then we can say, oh, well, what did we spend dining out over the past 12 months? Do we think we spent more than usual or less than usual with COVID times, maybe less? And that gives us guidance to pick a number for our spending plan going forward that maintains our current lifestyle. So this should be representative of our current lifestyle that we want to maintain. So this is summary data, living expenses at the top. Again, down here, intermittent expenses. So these are expenses that should be sort of one-time expenses, out of the ordinary. You bought a motorcycle, whatever it is. I like to put tax payments down here because normally we don't want to get ourselves in a position where we're writing huge tax payments at the end of the year. So we want to pay our taxes as we go. And if we do, then those should show up in living expenses because, taxes are part of living expenses. But if we do have that outsized payment, we'll put it down here. So this gives us our living expenses and then our total expenses. So our living expenses, remember, ongoing living expenses, maintaining lifestyle, and then total expenses includes all those one-time things. And we can get an annualized number of actual, and of course the annualized number of the plan. And so we can understand whether or not we're on plan as the year goes by. And that's important, not because we want to set a limit on our spending. You'll notice that I'm trying very hard, or maybe you won't notice. Maybe if I'm doing a good job, you don't notice. But I'm trying very hard not to use the word budget. I hate the word budget because budget implies setting a limit, an upper limit on what you can spend. So if our plan is to spend $1,000 a month dining out, which would be very hard to do right now, but if that's the plan, and we actually spend $1,100 or $1,200 or $1,400, we don't want to feel bad about that because it's not about getting each individual number right. It's about understanding this total figure down here on the right, okay? So if you can think about, from my perspective as a financial planner, wanting my clients to be successful financially overall, do I really care how much they spend on merchandise versus clothing versus pulling cash out versus whatever? No, I don't care. What I care about is having confidence in this number down here in the bottom right, this plan number. Is this number right? That's all I care about. And so in order to understand that that number's right, we do have to break it down by categories, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. If that number's right, then our 5-year projections are more likely to be right, and our lifetime projections are more likely to be right, okay? All right, so I'm gonna step back a little bit. So this is the template, this is the spreadsheet, happy to share it. I do this a certain way for my clients. If you want to do it for yourself, you may do it a slightly different way, but I'll show you real quick how I do it. If I click on the May, I've got all the transactions in May for all of the accounts that this client has, and I go through and categorize them. Now I've got a little trick. I got a little system that helps me do that somewhat automatically, and I can write rules and it'll semi-automatically do that. It's a financial planning software. It's not anything you're going to want to buy because it's super expensive, but there's probably tools out there for you to do that as well. You can also probably do this in your bank account. So like I believe in Bank of America, if you have a Bank of America account, you can categorize transactions online as you log in. Then when you download them, they're all categorized and ready to go. It should take you, once you get a system down to do this, it should take you no more than 20 or 25 minutes to do an entire month of transactions. That's about how much time it should take. You don't want to spend a ton of time on this because, boy, it can be draining. I also have income down here. You'll see that. Now that is net income. So that's just cash coming into the account. So when you get a paycheck, they take out taxes, they take out money for health insurance, take out money for all this stuff. All I'm seeing when I look at the transaction account is how much cash is coming in. And you can see it's small and it's kind of hidden, and that's by design. It's just as a guide. You can see this family gets a large chunk of income in May. And again, these numbers are made up. So that maybe call that a bonus check or a commission check maybe, or maybe even stock. But it is nice to be able to see that, you know, sometimes some months we can be negative and some months we're positive, right? But overall, we want to make sure that we're positive, of course. And we do that by having that spending plan. Okay, so enough on spending plans. We got the spending plan. We're managing that, you know, on an ongoing basis, on a monthly basis. We're looking at it, making sure we're at least in the ballpark of where we want to be. Now we know what we spend each year. Well, now we got to do a 5-year cash flow forecast. And why do we want to do 5 years? Well, I covered this a little bit on the long-term portfolio, building a long-term portfolio webinar, but we want to make sure that we have the cash to do the things we want to do in the next 5 years, set aside outside the markets, away from risk. Now, why is that? Well, the reason is because the markets go up and down and we never know which way they're going to go. And so we don't want to invest money that we're planning on spending next year or in the next 3 years, or what I'm saying, even in the next 5 years. And there's no magic rule to the 5-year figure. But I think 5 years is a good way to think about it. And usually the markets recover about 87% of the time over 5 years. So if there's a crash, about 87% of the time they're back for 5 years. So not 100%, but you got a good chance that you can ride it out if you've got your cash set aside. Okay, so 5-year cash flow forecast. We've got income up here, salary and bonus. We've got RSUs. Now this is kind of an interesting one. This is somebody who, again, it's, you know, these are made up numbers, but this is somebody who works for a private company who is expected to go public, and they've got RSUs, and I believe they might have options, and just RSUs I see on this spreadsheet, but they've got RSUs, and those will vest when they go public. So we're just throwing out a number thinking, well, maybe it'll happen 2022, and we know how many shares they have, and we have an idea of the valuation, so we plug it in there. Then we have our living expenses. Now, that previous spreadsheet, that spending plan, that entire spending plan is just this one line on the 5-year forecast. That's it. So again, we want to have confidence in that to bring it over. Then we have tax. We've got to estimate what our income tax is going to be given our future income expectations. We have 401k contributions because remember, even though that's income, it's not cash flow that we have access to, right? We're putting it in the 401k for a reason. It's going to be gone, or it's going to be not gone, but it's going to be not available to us to spend. And then we've got those extra expenses. So for example, planning to buy a new car in 2022, $100,000 new car. You could probably guess what that is. Rhymes with Tesla, I would imagine. Anyways, so, but you might put, if you have kids starting college in a couple of years, you might put that in there. If you need to put a new roof on your house, whatever it is, special vacation, you might put that in there. And so that gives us our net cash flow each year for the next 5 years. Now, in this example, this family is net positive each year in the next 5 years. So assuming they keep their jobs, assuming their income happens the way they want it to, and assuming their expenses happen the way they want it to, they don't need to put anything aside in savings outside of their investment portfolio for future expenses, because their current income is going to fund their expenses as time goes on, right? If these numbers were negative, or any of these numbers were negative, we'd want to put that over in savings. Now, does that mean that this family needs no emergency fund? Of course not, because we're assuming that they keep their jobs here, right? So we need an emergency fund. Typical rule of thumb is 6 months of expenses. I like to really sit down and think about with my clients, how long would it take you to find another job in the environment that you lose your job? And of course, that would be a downturn environment, right? So let's be a little harsh on that. And let's take that amount of expenses and stick it in savings. We're not worried about what we earn on it. We're worried that it's there for us. That's what it's for. So this is the 5-year cash flow projection. Gives us a really good idea of what the future is going to be like. I got to say, in all of this, these numbers change. Life happens. We make different decisions. We change our minds. That's okay, because this isn't about putting something on paper and then following it. This is about putting something on paper that we think might happen. That's an important distinction. We just want to understand what might be in store for us. Now, let me go back to the PowerPoint here. In the presentation mode. Okay, so here's some tips. Start with your current lifestyle. If you've never looked at your spending before, don't worry about it. Just look at what it has been. Look at what it is, because you're living right now probably the way you want to live. So let's see what it costs, and let's see if we can make it happen. So let's start with our current lifestyle. Let's not start, pulling the numbers down automatically or anytime soon at all. Let's just see what things cost. And let's add in all probable expenses and income, not all possible expenses and income. Let's think in terms of probabilities. What's realistic in terms of expenses and income? And then most importantly, most importantly is to update this on a regular basis, because things change, as you know. Life always changes. And that's why we call it financial planning and not a financial plan. Financial plan is outdated the moment you take it home. A financial planning arrangement is ongoing and is adjusting for life's challenges and changes. All right, so that I'm offering free one-on-one sessions to walk through any financial challenge that you're facing today. Happy to have that half-hour conversation, absolutely free, which means no cost and no sales pitch, I promise. And I also have other resources out there. I do a podcast. It's called Deliberate Money Moves. I have a blog on my website, bestfinlife.com, and I'm doing educational videos as well. If you work for a company and you'd like a specific presentation on your company's benefits, put me in touch with the HR person there that's appropriate to speak to. I'd be happy to study up the plans, work with the HR department, and do an internal presentation for any company that's out there. Thanks so much for attending, and have a great day.